Let's start where they need you to start, in the dark. Look around you, not at this room, but at the world they built for you. A world of formulas, a world of carefully measured out portions of success, of happiness, of so-called genius. They hand you a menu with very few items, and they tell you, choose, this is all there is. You are born into a silent auction where you are taught, from the very first day, to bid on scarcity. There is only so much wealth, only so many spots at the top, only a handful of truly original ideas left. Creativity, a finite resource, mostly depleted. Peace, a luxury item. And you are taught to see yourself as inherently limited. Your mind is a closed system with fixed capacities. You have a certain IQ, a certain set of talents they graded you on, a certain ceiling. This is the story. This is the bedrock of the managed mind. Think about the language they give you to speak about yourself. It's the language of description, of fixed states. I am not a math person. I am shy. I'm not creative. It's a prison of adjectives, a life sentence you recite to yourself. But who provided the vocabulary? Who benefits from you believing your own limitations are permanent, unalterable facts? The answer is simple. Every system that requires your compliance, every structure that needs to predict you, to slot you in, to sell you something you believe you lack. If you are a closed system, you are manageable. You can be marketed to. You can be led. You will look for saviors, for gurus, for that next course, that next book, that next piece of external validation to fix what you've been told is your broken, insufficient self. The industry of improvement is a trillion-dollar machine that runs on one fuel, your belief in your own scarcity. This is the first and greatest lie. The illusion of scarcity is not an economic principle. It is a psychological cage. They made it about resources out there, money, jobs, recognition, to distract you from the truth of the resource in here. Your mind. They want you to believe your own consciousness is a limited territory, already mapped with large sections marked, "Here be dragons," or "Do not enter." Why? Because an unexplored continent is a threat. A mind that knows its own boundless capacity is an unpredictable variable. It cannot be easily controlled. It does not wait in line for its ration of opportunity. It does not ask for permission to invent, to lead, to build, to see differently. They tried to hide the map. They tried to convince you the territory didn't exist. They called it mystery. They called it luck. They called it the province of the gifted, the talented, the other, always the other. They created a priesthood of genius and told you to worship at its temple, never to enter. All to keep you from performing the most dangerous act of all, turning your gaze inward and realizing the vault was never locked. It was just sitting in plain sight, labeled ordinary. The black file isn't hidden in some vaulted archive. It's buried under the daily liturgy of "I can't," "I'm not," and "there's not enough." So we begin by dismantling the cage from the inside. We begin by rejecting the auction. We cease bidding on scarcity. The first step toward the secret is the realization that everything you've been taught about the limits of your mind is not a discovery. It is an invention, a very useful one, for them. Your compliance is their peace of mind. Your doubt is their product. Your sense of lack is their profit margin. But tonight, that ends. Tonight, you stop describing the walls of your cell and start listening for the silence behind them. The silence where your own voice, giving a direct order, is the only sound that matters. The auction is over. You are leaving the gallery. Now you see the cage. You feel its bars. They are made of the words you've been given, words of description. They are subtle, seductive. They feel like honesty. I am struggling. I am so overwhelmed. I wish I could focus. This language is a report, a status update from the front lines of a battle you are losing. It is a broadcast of your current coordinates to your own enemy. Every time you use it, you are not speaking to your mind. You are filing a memo on its limitations. You are reinforcing the very reality you claim to want to escape. They gave you this language because it is the language of a spectator, a narrator. It is perfectly designed to keep you watching the story of your own confinement. Tonight, you stop narrating. Tonight, you start commanding. The secret in the black file is not a complex formula. It is not a 10-year meditation ritual. It is a shift in syntax, a single, seismic change in how you address the most powerful system you will ever own. It is the difference between talking about the engine and pressing the ignition. We move from the language of description to the language of directive. You do not hope, you do not wish, you do not describe your desired state as something distant, something to be attained. You issue it as an order to a part of yourself that has been waiting silently for a clear instruction. This is not positive thinking. Positive thinking is often just prettier description. I am a confident person. Still a statement of identity, a label you are trying to paste over a feeling of fear. The subconscious, the part that runs the machinery, hears the strain. It hears the wish. It knows you are trying to convince yourself of something you do not fully believe. The language of the directive bypasses all of that. It speaks in clear present tense imperatives. It does not argue with reality. It initiates a new one. It is the voice you use when there is no time for debate, when action is the only option. You do not say, I am going to try to find a solution. You look into the dark. You access the part of your mind that solves problems, and you give the order, access clarity. The words are not about you. They are to you. They are not a description of a state, but a command to activate a function. Consider the difference. In the old language, faced with a crisis, you might panic and think, I need to stay calm. That is a plea, a recognition of lack. The new protocol? You take a breath, and with the authority of someone who has just discovered the controls, you state, engage calm. It is not a request. It is an execution. The mind hears not a wish, but an instruction. It begins to reallocate resources. It starts the protocols that you, until now, believed were only accessible by chance or years of training. This is the hacker's key. This is the command line they tried to hide behind the pretty, user-friendly interface of affirmations and wishful thinking. They gave you the graphical interface, the buttons labeled hope, try, maybe. They never told you about the blank prompt where you could input direct code, generate insight, command focus, initiate resolve. These are not mantras. They are executable files for the human psyche. The power is in the presumption. You do not wait to feel calm to command calm. You command calm to access the feeling. You do not wait for focus to magically arrive. You command focus and watch as your mind, trained on 1,000 distractions, begins to retract its antennae and tune to a single frequency. You are speaking to it not as a hopeful spectator, but as its operator. You are assuming the controls that have always been there. This is why it was kept in the black file. A person who narrates their life is predictable. They react. A person who issues directives to their own inner machinery becomes unpredictable, autonomous. They are no longer waiting for a feeling to dictate an action. They are using a command to generate the feeling that fuels the action. They are no longer software running on code written by others. They have become the programmer. The transition is not in learning something new. It is in unlearning the habit of petitioning your own mind and beginning the practice of directing it. Stop asking it for reports. Start giving it missions. The words are simple. Their architecture is everything. Present tense, active verb, a clear outcome, no ing words that stretch into the future. No I am that fights with your current identity, just the pure, unadorned directive. From this moment forward, your internal dialogue ceases to be a commentary. It becomes a command center. Your mind has been waiting for this. It has been listening to static for years. Now, give it a clear signal. Now you hold the key. A simple shift in syntax. A change of voice inside your own mind. It seems almost too straightforward, elegant in its simplicity. And that should be your first clue. If it is so powerful, if it is the fundamental switch to move from passenger to pilot, then a single, inevitable question forms in the dark. Why wasn't this the first thing you were ever taught? Why is the world saturated with endless, complicated methods for self-improvement? The 10-step plans, the year-long coup, RSEs, the rituals and routines. But this direct line to command was never drawn on the map. It was not an oversight. It was a design. Think, who benefits from a world of people who describe their limitations, a populace that speaks in the passive language of hope and wishing? The answer is every entity that requires your consumption, your compliance, your predictable doubt. The entire architecture of what they sell you, from motivation to security, is built upon one foundational market principle: your perceived inadequacy, your belief that you lack something they have. The language of description, the narration of your struggles, is the engine of that market. When you say, "I am not disciplined," what happens next? You go shopping for discipline. You buy a book, an app, a planner, a seminar. When you broadcast, "I am so anxious," you are primed for the solution industry. The pills, the programs, the therapies, sold in perpetuity. This language keeps you in a state of perpetual seeking. You are always a customer. You are always looking for the next external fix for an internal state you believe you cannot generate yourself. Directive language shatters that economy. Command focus requires no purchase. Engage calm needs no subscription. Initiate resolve asks for no guru's permission. Once you know you can issue the order, the entire marketplace of inadequacy collapses for you. You are no longer a consumer of solutions. You are the source. You become commercially uninteresting. You become unpredictable, a person who can generate their own clarity, their own resolve, their own courage. On demand is a variable that cannot be easily managed, marketed to, or controlled. This is the suppression, not a conspiracy of men in a room, but a consensus of systems, educational, corporate, cultural, that thrive on your passive participation. They taught you to externalize authority, to look for the answer out there, to wait for the feeling before you take the action. Because if you wait, you are controllable. If you need to feel confident before you speak, you may never speak. If you need to feel motivated before you act, you will never act against your comfort. They keep you waiting for a permission slip from your own emotions, a permission slip that never comes, so that you remain where you are. Directive language is the ultimate insubordination. It is you signing your own permission slip. It is you promoting yourself to the authority. When you command focus, you are not waiting for focus to descend upon you like a blessing from the productivity gods. You are seizing it. This act of internal sovereignty is the one thing they cannot allow to become common knowledge. A society of self-commanding individuals is a society that cannot be led by the nose through fear or scarcity. It is a society that innovates, that challenges, that refuses the pre-written narrative. They hid it in plain sight by drowning it in noise. They surrounded it with 10,000 complicated alternatives. They made the path to self-mastery seem long, arduous, and accessible only through their gateways, degrees, certifications, expensive retreats. The simplicity of the directive was a threat, so they called it oversimplistic. They said, real change takes work, implying that work must be hard, must be long, must be purchased. They made the direct path seem illegitimate, while selling you endless winding detours. The black file was not locked in a safe. It was buried under an avalanche of products, all designed to fix the problem they needed you to believe you had. The most carefully guarded secret is not a thing but a function, not a treasure but a switch. And they guarded it not with guards, but with a world that constantly, subtly, persuades you to look everywhere for it, except within the silence of your own command. They profit from your narration. They fear your command. The industry of the self improves only when the self believes it is broken. You are not broken. You have simply been speaking the wrong language to the wrong audience. Stop reporting your chains. Start issuing your orders. The theory is a weapon, but a weapon you do not know how to load, to aim, to fire is merely a weight in your hand. It is a theory. It becomes a trap, another thing you know but cannot use. We will not let that happen. Knowledge without application is just another form of memory. What you will learn now is not knowledge. It is protocol. It is sequence. It is the method of turning a silent thought into a tangible force. This is the activation sequence, the movement from knowing about the command line to typing your first executable order. We will break it down not into philosophy, but into steps. Concrete, deliberate, and performed with intent. Step 1 is identification, but not identification of a problem. We are finished with problems. You are not a diagnostician of your own deficiencies. You are an architect of states, so you identify the required state, the necessary condition for the moment you are in, or the action you must take. Do not think, I am distracted. That is the old language, the report. Instead, define the precise, opposite function. What is the missing piece? Is it clarity? Is it precision? Is it resolve? Is it calm? Name the state as you would name a tool you are about to pick up, not an emotion you hope to feel, but an operational mode you require. For this I need focus. For this I need courage. Be surgical. The correct command requires the correct target. Step 2 is formulation. This is where the old world will try to reassert itself. Your mind, trained in description, will want to say, I will be focused, or I'm going to try to be courageous. You will silence that voice. You will formulate the directive. The rule is simple. A present tense, imperative verb followed by the target state. It is an order, not a description. Command focus. Access courage. Engage clarity. Initiate resolve. The verb is active. It assumes the function exists and needs only to be activated. Command, access, engage, initiate, generate, project. These are your primary verbs. They are the triggers. The second word is the state, the destination. The two together form the code. Do not adorn it. Do not say, please, mind, give me focus if it's not too much trouble. Do not negotiate. Do not hope. You are not typing a search query into the universe. You are inputting a line of code into a system that operates on clarity. Ambiguity is the enemy of execution. Feel better is weak. It is vague. Engage calm is specific. It is a direct instruction to a subsystem. Step 3 is delivery. This is the most critical phase. This is where you move from thinking a thought to issuing a decree. You do not whisper it meekly. You do not repeat it like a frantic mantra. You deliver it internally with the absolute calm authority of someone who has the right to give it. The authority does not come from feeling powerful first. It comes from the understanding that you are, in fact, the only possible source of this order for your own mind. There is no other chain of command. Feel the difference. A whispered "be confident" is a plea. A silent, firm project, confidence, is an instruction given from the control room to the machinery. It is not loud, but it is absolute. There is no question mark at the end of it. There is only the period. Then, and this is the final non-negotiable component of the protocol, you act as if the command has been received, acknowledged, and executed. You do not wait for a confirmation signal in the form of a new feeling. You bypass the feeling entirely. You move. If you have issued command focus, your eyes go to the task and your hand moves. If you have issued access courage, you step forward into the uncomfortable action before your body can register the old fear. The action is the proof of the command. It is the physical manifestation of the order. The mind learns through consequence. When it sees the body moving in accordance with the directive, it understands the command was valid. It begins to align the emotions, the biochemistry, with the action already in progress. You are not feeling your way into acting. You are acting your way into a new feeling, guided by the initial command. This is the discipline. This is the practice. Not of positive thinking, but of decisive being. You will fail at first. The old language will rush back in. You will find yourself narrating your failure to command. When this happens, you do not judge. You simply identify the state required, likely compassion or discipline, and you formulate the new directive, reset protocol, resume command. You are not learning to be a different person. You are learning to operate the person you are with a different set of controls. The controls were always there. You are just reading the manual for a different machine. This is not a meditation. It is an activation. From this moment, your inner world is no longer a weather system you suffer. It is a command system you operate. Begin the sequence. Now you have the protocol, a sequence to follow. But there is a final critical firewall between knowing what to do and being what you are. A last line of defense that the old world built around you. It is not a wall of stone. It is a wall of faces, of voices, of authorities. It is the lingering, almost religious belief that for something this powerful to work, you need permis, scion, a certificate, a guide, a master. You need someone else to validate the command you are about to give to yourself. This is the final illusion, the most seductive trap, and we dismantle it now. Think of every system you have ever approached for improvement, every book that promised a new you, every course that laid out a proven path, every guru who offered the secret. For a fee, what was the unspoken contract? The contract was that they held a piece of the puzzle you lacked, that their method, their presence, their validation was a necessary component for your transformation. They positioned themselves as the gatekeeper, the translator between your current state and your desired one. They sold you a bridge to cross a gap they convinced you was uncrossable alone. Directive language makes that bridge obsolete. It makes the gatekeeper irrelevant. When you command focus, you are not applying someone else's 12-step technique for concentration. You are accessing a native function. You are not interpreting a teaching. You are executing a command. There is no middleman. There is no interpreter. There is only the clear channel between your intent and your mind's execution. This is the ultimate bypass. You are not climbing the ladder they sold you. You are realizing the wall you thought you were climbing was an illusion, and you simply choose to walk through it. This is why it is the most guarded truth of all. An industry worth billions is built on the foundation of your perceived dependence. It requires complexity, thrives on your confusion. It needs you to believe the path is long and arduous and filled with specialized knowledge only they possess. The beautiful, devastating simplicity of the directive is a threat to that entire economy. It is too fast. It is too internal. It leaves no room for a guru to stand between you and your own power. Look at what they sell. They sell you the map, the compass, the hiking gear, the guide, the training for the guide, the philosophy of the journey, all for a trek across a desert of your own making. The directive shows you the truth. You are not in a desert. You are in a control room. The map is not outside. It is the schematic of your own mind. You do not need to buy the compass. You are the north. From this moment, you must see every offer of external salvation for what it is: a detour, a delay tactic, a reinforcement of the very dependency you are breaking. When you feel the old urge to search for the answer out there, to find the right teacher, the right system, that is the trigger. That is the signal to go internal. That is the moment to stop searching and start commanding. Access discernment, generate the answer. This is not arrogance. It is the opposite of arrogance. Arrogance is believing you need no one. This is sovereignty. It is knowing that the most critical authority, the authority over your own state of being, cannot and should not be outsourced. It is the ultimate personal responsibility. They tried to make self-mastery a product so you would never realize it was your birthright. You are not integrating a new philosophy. You are not becoming a disciple of a method. You are learning to operate machinery you were born with. You do not need a mechanic to show you how to breathe. You do not need a consultant to show you how to blink. And you do not need an intermediary to show you how to command your own attention, your own courage, your own calm. These are native functions. The protocol is not adding something new. It is removing the software that told you the functions were disabled. So you practice. And when you stumble, you will feel the old pull. The pull to find a book, to ask an expert, to look for a more complicated, more prestigious, more expensive system. In that moment, you recognize the trap. You smile at its familiarity, and you bypass it. You go silent. You identify the required state. You formulate the directive. You deliver it. You act. The answer, the next step, the clarity. It does not come from a library or a lecture hall. It comes from the silence after the command. From the space you create when you stop looking for mediators and start listening to the output of your own executed order. The gatekeepers, the well-meaning and the predatory, they all stand at the doors of a building you have just realized you were never inside. You were always outside. The controls were always with you. You were just convinced to admire the architecture of the prison so much, you never thought to check your own pockets for the key. Stop seeking guides for a journey that does not exist. You are the terrain, you are the map, and you have just been given the authority to redraw both. The gate is you. Now walk through it. So this is what remains. After the cage is seen, after the key is turned, after the old language falls silent, this is the landscape that appears when the static clears. You are no longer a character in a story someone else is narrating. You are no longer a reactor to the world's chaos. You have stepped out of the audience, past the stage, and into the control booth. You are no longer waiting for the weather of your own mind to change. You have found the thermostat. This is not an upgrade. It is a migration. You have crossed into a different category of existence, the category of the conscious operator. This is the declassified life. It is not a life of perpetual, robotic command. It is not a cold, emotionless state. It is the exact opposite. It is the full, unobstructed flow of experience, but now you are at the helm. The storms still come. The pressure still rises. The noise of the world does not cease. But now, you do not drown in the storm. You do not panic at the pressure. You do not get lost in the noise. You assess. You identify the required state. You issue the directive, and you navigate. Fear becomes a signal, not a sentence. Doubt becomes data, not a destination. Chaos becomes raw material, not a verdict. You are no longer a prisoner of your own inner weather. You are the PI. Plot flying through it. Think of what you once called intuition. A faint, mysterious whisper you hope to hear. In the declassified life, intuition is not a whisper. It is the clear output of a command you have already given, access, insight, and the answer forms. It is not magic, it is mechanics. You are not hoping for a breakthrough. You are commanding the conditions in which a breakthrough can occur. You are not waiting for inspiration to strike like lightning. You are constructing the lightning rod and raising it into the sky. Creativity, genius, resolve, these are not gifts bestowed upon the lucky few. They are functions. And you now know the syntax to initiate them. Your relationships change. You no longer look to others to regulate your internal state. You do not seek a partner to give you confidence, a boss to give you validation, a crowd to give you permission. You generate these states from within, on demand. This does not make you distant. It makes you truly present. You engage from a place of fullness, not lack. You connect from choice, not desperation. You become a source, not a drain. You become, for others, a demonstration of a possibility they have not yet seen. You become quiet proof. Your past rewrites itself. The old failures, the old narratives of I always or I never, they lose their power. They were written in the old language, the language of fixed description. You now read them as reports from a previous operating system. They are not prophecies, they are archaeology. You look at them with the detached curiosity of an operator reviewing old data. They do not define you. They inform you. You are not your history. You are the one who commands the present. This is what they tried to hide, not a trick, not a shortcut, but an entire tier of human existence, a level of agency so profound it looks like sorcery to those still speaking the language of wish and hope. They called this mastery. They called it enlightenment. They placed it on a mountain and told you the climb would take a lifetime of suffering. They made it a destination so remote, you would never dare to believe it could be your starting point tomorrow. It is not a destination. It is a default setting. It is the operating mode you were meant for, buried under the malware of managed thought. The black file did not contain a secret about the world. It contained a secret about you, that you were never meant to be a supplicant in your own mind. You were meant to be its commander. From this moment forward, every challenge is no longer a threat. It is a command prompt, a blank line waiting for your input. Every moment of uncertainty is not a crisis. It is an invitation to generate clarity. Every instance of fear is not a stop sign. It is a request to access courage. You are no longer solving problems. You are executing commands that make the problems irrelevant. You are not becoming someone new. You are ceasing to impersonate someone limited. You are shedding the costume of the managed mind. Underneath is not a different face. It is your own face, finally in focus. The face of the operator, calm, authoritative, unsurprised by your own power, because you now recognize it as native, as natural as breath. The declassification is not a one-time event. It is a sustained state, a perpetual act of choosing command over commentary. Every time you do it, you deepen the pathway. You strengthen the signal. You live a little more permanently in the reality where you are in charge. The secret is out, the file is open, the controls are in your hands. The world of description is behind you. Welcome to the world of command.